Hello. Okay, so I just wanted to do a little video for interest and stuff for you because it's just simple, so I can make a quick video on it for you. Anyways, I'll just use the definition here to explain it instead of yapping too much. I'll explain it badly. Interest is money that is paid regularly at a particular percentage. Blah blah blah. Oh, yeah. This is like unnecessary. All you need to know is the numbers, right? It's just maths. You don't need to know the fucking backstory. Anyways, simple interest is just yeah. So to put it simply, ha 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 ha, simple interest. These explanations are low key kind of wrong. These are wrong explanations. Anyways, uh, the best way to explain it is that simple interest is where the interest is applied to the base money, like the original amount, and compound interest is that the the interest is applied to the original amount plus the new interest, or like the total amount. So, for example, over 2 years, you'd earn more money on uh, compound interest because you're earning interest on the total of the bank, which is including the new interest money. Whereas if you had a simple interest over 2 years, you'd earn less money because you're just applying the interest to what you already own, the original interest, and not onto the money that's already been accrued. And accrued is like gained. Accrued received or accumulated in regular or increasing amounts over time. Big word. You might use that for English. Anyways, so if we go here on Cobra Maths, this is non-calculator, so it's good to practice on this. Anyways, let's read the question. Sebastian leaves £3,000 in the bank for 2 years. It earns compound interest for 2% a year. Those are the four key terms you need to know. That you need to read in the question, right? In the word questions, it's the original amount, the time, if it's compound or simple, and the percent. And obviously, there's going to be some other cases, which is why we'll go through this a little bit. But those are the main ones that you need to know that will pop up. I mean, there might be other questions. It's generally, I mean, usually all the questions are pretty much the same with just different numbers. So, anyways, this is a non-calculator, so we'll just treat it that way. And so we know that his original amount is 3,000. That's a given. And we just need to work out the multiplier here. So the multiplier for 2%, 2% is as a decimal is 0.02. So that'll be like the multiplier, right? Because if you multiply 3,000 by 0.02, then the answer would be the value of 2%, right? So anyways, now that we know that, we want to work out the compound interest. So that's including the original amount. So we're not doing 0.02, which would give us 60. We're doing 1.02, which if we multiply the two, gives us 3,060. Why? Because 1 is 3,000. This is the 1. And then the 2% that we're getting is £60 because that's 2% of 3,000, which is 60. And added together is 3,060. But it's at 2 years. So this would be for uh year one. Holy fucking handwriting. Year one. But we're not working out year one, we're working out year two. So because it's compound, we're not multiplying um the interest amount. So if it was simple interest, I'll explain it this way. Is let's just go back. Let's do it in simple interest, right? If it was simple, we'd be working out the interest amount, which is 0.02 without the one, which would give us 60. And then we just multiply it by the number of years. Was 120, and that'll be the interest gained over 2 years. And if you add it to the total, that'll be the total amount of money after 2 years. But this isn't simple interest. And so because it's not simple interest, we're just multiplying with the original amount and we're doing it twice for 2 years. So anyways, year one will give us 3,060. And now year two, because it's accruing onto the new amount, 3,060, we're not multiplying by 3,000 anymore. This time we're multiplying by 3,060. 1.02 multiplied by 3,060. You know it's going to have 3,000, and then you want 2% of this, which would be £72. Because We already know £60 is like this amount, but we're also working out now 2% of 60, which would be 12, right? No, it wouldn't be 12, sorry. It would be 1.2 because it's a tenth of that, right? 50. So divided by 5 is 12, divided by 10 is 1.2, yes. So it would new the interest for the second year would be £61 and 20 pence. But we have to add it together. So now it would be 3,000 no, not 3,121 pounds and 20 pence. And that is for year 2. And it said total amount, so that's our answer right there. Because that's the total. £3,121 and 20 pence. Now the next one's a calculator question. It's compound interest for 4% a year, 4 years, £1,600. And it's asking total amount, which is the easiest one, right? Now, because this is a calculator, I'm going to show you an equation which you can do, which will make your life 10 times easier. And that's just have your original amount. You have the multiplier, which is 1.04. And this time, we're going to put it in brackets and in indices, we're going to put the number of years, which is 4 years. You put that in your calculator, you'll get the answer right there. And so the way this works is, you see how here we're multiplying individually each time? Here, because we have the indices here, that's doing the same function as what we're doing. So instead of multiplying it over and over again by hand, the calculator can just spit out 1.04 times 4 again. Anyways, now just to demonstrate that, if we put in a calculator, then we get 1,600 multiplied by, we get brackets on this thing. How do you get brackets on? All right, there we go. All right, sorry. So 1,600 multiplied by bracket 1.04, and in no, not squared. I go back. This is a weird calculator. All right, let's write it again then. Multiplied by brackets 1.04, close brackets, and then on the top right, we need to write 4. There we go. That's our answer. Because it said total amount, and that is the total amount. So what was it? It's a lot of decimal places. We can just skip. We need to round to 2 decimal places, right? Because it's pence. And pence don't go more than that, right? So 7, if you round it, it's a phrase, so you rounds down, so it's 7. So the answer is 1,871 pounds and 77 pence. Boom. Easy, right? Literally putting different numbers to this equation. That's fucking easy as shit. Now, this one. This is in reverse. It's value depreciated by 15% each year for the first 3 years. Now, I low-key forgot if this is simple interest or not. We could uh we could do both. I believe this is simple interest. Because it's depreciating. I want to say that's correct. We can check the answers after this. Anyways. So 18,000, and this time it, because it's simple, we can add up all the interest when we calculate. So I'll just do that. So 18,000 is the original number, and we are minus 15%, which minus is technically divide by 0. No, sorry, 1.15. I haven't done math since so long. And that would give us like 1 year, right? But that's hard because we have to do that 3 times over. I mean, yeah. Actually, no, that's incorrect because we need to work out the interest. So, anyways, the correct way to do this is multiply it. Oh my god, I'm going over so many steps. Let's start again. Okay, with the explanation. I probably confused you there. So the original amount is 18,000. We're working out how much it'll be after 3 years because it's depreciating by 15% each year. Now, the easiest way to handle this, because it's simple interest, I assume, is to work out the depreciation value itself. And the best way to do that is to multiply this number by its multiplier 0.15, which is 15%. Now that is easy, right? I'm just going to put in a calculator because I'm lazy. And how do we delete this thing? There we go. All right. 18,000 multiplied by 0.15 is 2,700. So that's holy typing. That's 1 year. You lose 2,700. But it's asking for 3 years. So guess what? We just multiply it by 3. And I don't think we need a calculator for this. It should be 8,100, I believe. Yeah, it is. 8,100. And then last thing, because we're working out the new value, we're doing the original value minus the whatever we removed. It'll be 18,000 equal 8,100 is equal to 9,900. Boom, easy peasy, right? Now let me just go back and check if it is in fact a simple interest, because I don't want to fuck you over. It was not a simple interest. Okay, that's my bad. But I'll explain this then. So what they did is 0.85, and then they did the method I said, which is you put the year as an indice. And for some reason they don't put it in brackets. I guess you don't need to. To be fair, I just like to do it anyways. It's nice to use brackets. But anyways, the reason that they put 0.85, not something to do with 15, is because 1 is the original value, right? But we're taking away. So what's 1 take away 0.15? 0.85. And that explains it. So my explanation here was completely wrong, but you could apply it to other things. I guess the main issue is not knowing this equation, but knowing when to apply it. And I messed up there. I assume that this was simple. It's not simple. So I guess if you see a similar question to this, you'll know to use compound interest, right? Because I cannot tell you for the life of me. Anyways, where are we at? 4. Okay, let's skip straight to 6 so you don't see the answers. Close that. All right. They've given us a formula. Margot buys a new boat. Value of the boat. So we're working out value. Where T is the age of the boat in years. Write down how much the boat cost Margot. So the value of the boat is... How much the boat cost Margot? Well, this is the original cost, right? So that's all you need to know. You just need to take that out, and that's 48,000. Because part of the equation is using the original cost, and this is the original cost. Now, write down the annual percentage decrease. So what it's doing is what we did here, or whatever the answer guy did over here, you're just using that maths here. So if you wanted to do that, what's like the formula for that? Because obviously I could tell you 0.12. That's not the issue. It's how do we get that answer? It is simply 1 take away by 0.88, is this number here, equals to 0.12, but they asked for a percentage, and you know for a percentage you just multiply the decimal by 100. So if we got 0.12 and we multiply it by 100, that equals to 12%, and that goes right there. And Margot plans to sell the boat when it's 10 years old. And that's easy, we're just using this equation here, right? So 48,000. Yeah, I thought it was an extra 8 there, my bad. Multiplied by 0.8 to the power of 10 equals to, calculate it, easy. 48,000 multiplied. It is a non, yeah, it's a calculate question. 0.88 the power of 10. It's 13,368 and 5 pence. Because you need to remember to round to the nearest second decimal place because it's in pence. I'm not writing that. Actually, I will write that for your sake, just in case you might need to look at it. So 13,368 and 5 pence, and that's the answer. This is a non-calculate question. Let's do it. This is a reasoning question because you're explaining. All right. Jenny invests £400 for 2 years at 5% compound interest paid yearly. And that's important too sometimes. It's how often it compounds. Because the more often something compounds, the more you're going to make because you're adding on continually. Tim says that the interest Jenny will receive will be £40. I see what the answer is. Because you see, 5%, there's an assumption that over 2 years, 5% times by 2 is obviously 10%. And 400, holy, I can't write. 400 times by 0.1 equals to 40, right? But that's assuming simple interest. If it was simple interest, the total interest that Jenny would receive is going to be £40. But it says compound. How do we phrase this? I am low-key struggling on this. You're the English student, not me. um, let's say Tim is assuming that the interest that Jenny receives is simple interest. Interest. This is because 0.05 times by 2 is equal to 0.1. 400. 0.1 is equal to 40. I would put a pound sign, but can't find it. If it was simple interest, it would be right. However, it's the statement says that Jenny compound interest, therefore Tim is wrong. Whoa, Tim, you're a bad boy. Cool. Let me just check the answer scheme as well, because the main thing is you don't want to just be right. You want to be right according to answer scheme. Now, whilst my answer is pretty fairly right, wow, they accept either 4 or 5. You don't have to round. Okay. Anyways, how did they do it? No, first year 5%. Ah, okay. So I did it wrong. Instead of explaining the logic, which to be fair, I did do it wrong. You have to prove it. And how they did it was they calculated the interest. They said it was £41. And how much interest? So what they did was 1 mark was for saying that Tim was wrong. 1 mark was for the working out of her interest, and 1 mark was for calculating the correct interest. So these were the 3 marks that you get, and now you know, and now I know too, because what the fuck? I mean, hopefully this is still useful to you. I know I'm kind of being retarded, but I am showing you the answer, the mark sheet, whatever the fuck you call it, so you can kind of understand how to calculate it. What am I reading here? Oh wow. Interest they're calculating percentages with balls and stuff. That's interesting. All right, let's skip that. The number of people living on a remote island is expected to decrease by 2% each year. Now, if you remember with the car question, when it was decreasing, it was a compound. So let's treat it the same way. It's just an equation. So decrease, let's just say simple ways, compound. So if it's decreasing, it's a compound. And we know it's 2%, and we know it's 28,000 people, and we know it's 6 years. Those are the 4 main things we kind of need to know. Or I guess 5. So let's put it in an equation. 28,000 multiplied by 0, because it's taken away, point 98, because 1 minus 0.02 equal to 0.98. And then we need to add 6 on top, and that equals to, let's put it in right now, divided by 1. No, not 1. 0.998 to the power of 6 equals 24,803. And because we're calculating people, this is one thing I'm going to write out first. 803.50. Now, if it was money, this would be a completely acceptable answer. But because we're calculating people, we can't have half a person. So we can't round up. Even though technically 5 rounds up, so it would be 4. We can't do that in that case because it's half a person. You can't round the person up. So we just skip that and give a whole number, and the whole number is 24,803. We just ignore the decimals. Fuck you to the decimal, right? I would say now, in my opinion, they will give leniency, just like here with the boat, how you could do 4. I think in this case, because it's a decreasing over time equation, there might be leniency where you round it up to 4, probably. But it's just something you should keep in mind, not to rely on. Even in this case, they might give leniency. In other cases, it might not be the same. For example, increases, they won't be lenient on, I think, because this is complex maths, I think. Or not complex maths, it's basic logic. It's just complex to explain it. I think you probably understand. You're very smart. But when you're decreasing, you're starting from a high, right? You're starting from the higher point, the larger number, and then going down to a small number. But when you're increasing, you're starting from a smaller number going up to a bigger number. So the logic here is that on increases, you generally want to round down because you're going low to high. You stay on the low. And on decreases, you go from high to low, so you stay on the high for like the large number. And how that applies is this honestly could be 24,804 because 804 is larger than 803, and we're going high to low, like I said. But this is just gibberish, and I don't think this ever matters. We could check the mark sheet though, real quick, after we do question 11. And I think after we do question 11, I'll skim through and we'll see if we leave it there or not. Now, the value of a television was £600 on this time every 4 months. Okay, this is getting more complex. This is actually useful to learn. The value of the television decreased by 8% of its value at the start of that 4 months. Now, the way they've worded that, decreased by 8% of its value at the start of the 4 months, you know it's compound because it's based on a new value, not the original value. So that's how you know it's compound. Next thing is asking for a year later, but it's every 4 months. And this really did not need to be written down, but I'm doing it anyways. If it's every 4 months and there's 12 months in a year, then you get 3 intervals, I guess, of compounding. That's important to know because before what we were doing, we were the the indice was always the year, right? Like the number of years, and from here to here is 1 year. But we're not multiplying by one, we're multiplying by 3. Why? Because it's every 4 months, and really that equation, the indice is always the number of intervals. That makes sense, right? So 600 multiplied by 0.92, because that's 1 minus 0.08, and then to the power of 3, because why? We're compounding 3 times. If we were to have a calendar, it would be from March to July to November to March again. I skipped something. No, I didn't. So March, that's 1. July, that's 2. November, that's 3. Well, I mean, sorry. July 1, November 2, March 3. Whatever. You get the point, right? 3 intervals where we're uh, applying interest. That's a good word. Applying interest. All right. Now we just input it. Same as before, right? It's just an equation. Like you just need one equation, two equations. You just really need to know multipliers and this equation, and you'll be set, honestly. As you can see. 9, 2, and do the power of 3. We get 467.212. And we just leave it like that. We round it. 4, 6, 7. 2, 8, was it? I think so. Oh, that's your answer. No, it was 2, 1.